Welcome back, traders and investors, to Benzinga's pre-market prep, brought to you by MarketFi. I'm your co-host Joel Elconin, along with Brianna Valesky, and I have Bruce Marshall on the line, income trading specialist for Simpler Trading. Bruce, how you doing this morning?
Yes. I am doing great. Very good this morning. Futures are up, so that's a good thing.
Right. So, why would you get involved in trading after the crash in 1987?
I look back and wonder that myself. But I was in college, or coming out of college at that time, and I'd been studying the market for years, and I didn't have any money in the market, so the crash was more fascinating to me than fearful, at that point. So I was ready to get in on the action, after that.
Okay, and you've been on Wall Street trading desks, been involved in IPOs, different Wall Street firms. Can you just of all those different experiences, to what do you credit your trading today from? What did you take away from those different experiences?
I mean, it's definitely been, trading is an evolution, I would say. Starting with bonds and kind of working my way through to stocks, and then ultimately to options. Um, you know, Starting in the bond market, I was that's where I got my feet wet, and I learned, obviously the size of the bond market. I was trading agencies and munis at that time, and you know, that really taught me how to trade volatility because I learned how to trade the yield curve, which transferred over to volatility in stocks and ultimately to options.
Okay, all right. So tell us about your transition from equities to options and what prompted the move.
I was trading, primarily stocks, and this was back in early '90s when the market. I mean, it was pretty easy to make money back then, and as the volatility started to pick up, I realized I could sell cash covered puts and I could write covered calls and bring in extra income on on stocks that were not moving. And and then of course that leads into speculation and the tech stocks and that type of thing. And all that again, was a kind of a long journey. Ultimately led me to to selling premium iron condors and that type of thing, spreads. So it was an evolution over many years and many market cycles, and each market cycle will teach you some valuable lessons.
And what about, I mean, you hear about such a high percentage of options, either option traders losing or options expiring worthless, and I can attest to that on a few trades. What do you think? I
Right.
mean, is the money really made in selling the options? I mean, just taking advantage of that time decay?
I believe so. That's definitely been my experience. I think everyone starts out buying options, which is okay if you really understand volatility and understand the Greeks, understand exactly what you're buying. But I was having this conversation with someone yesterday, that I buy calls and the stock goes up and I lose money. Well, there's a reason for that. So, buying to me is not the best way, unless you turn it into a spread or something like that. Selling to me is much easier, much more predictable.
Okay. All right. Moving on here. Next question for you. Let me look. Tell us about the similarities and differences in trading through the dot-com bubble, the economic crisis of 2008, and the flash crash.
Okay, I was thinking about that, and I'd kind of block those things out of your mind. The dot com bubble is, that was brutal because for the years coming up to prior to that, it had been so easy to make money. In the late '90s, you could just throw a dart and make money. And it was so easy, and the easier that it became, I think the more people obviously leveraged up and made more money, and then then the dance ends, and we all know how that happened. That was just that was not fun because it was such a sharp instant decline in the sector, primarily in the sectors that were making money. Um, compare that to the economic crisis of 2008, which was just brutal in a different way because that was, that was across the board. Not only a stock market bubble, but, housing bubble, credit bubble, and I, like a lot of people, had developed a portfolio of real estate and, rental properties and that type of thing. And so, it was very painful to me because I was hurt on both,
Every which
on
way
both
but
ends.
loose, right?
Right. It was just, it was very, very brutal. But, ironically, the flash crash didn't really bother me. And I think it's primarily because of the way that I trade. A lot of people day trade. A lot of people are very long term. I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm usually 30, 60, 90 days out. So my target is further out in time. So the flash crash, it was over so fast that it really didn't affect my positions. So that, the flash crash was not a big deal to me. And if you were on if you were on your game, you could really have made a lot of money, trading it, because of the wild swings in volatility that we had. So, that was not, painful like the others.
Okay. All right. Moving on. Now, we talked about those three incidents, and most people would like to forget it. Do you
Yeah.
see any ingredient for another market meltdown on the horizon?
I was listening to, Sean earlier,
Mm-hmm.
your earlier guest, and I totally agree with him. I think that a rate hike will be, later than sooner. If we were to get, a surprise rate hike earlier, obviously that would, probably, at least in the short term, could put us in a tailspin potentially. But I think that, the economy is improving, although it's slow, slowly improving. I think we will have a back end of 2015 be a better year because of oil prices and, after we kind of get through this next quarter. So I really don't, I don't see a major meltdown. I mean, no one ever sees them. They always come out of that field. But, Greece is looking a little bit better. I'm looking at payroll numbers and that type of thing today, and of course we'll have non-farms on Friday. But I'm not seeing a major meltdown, and this sideways volatility is the perfect market for me. This is what I love. I love volatility to go up, and we go sideways. We're range bound. Can make a lot of money that way.
Sounds like you have a similar style to Nick Shaheen, not making really big bets on where the market's going to go, where it's not going to go, or if it's just going to stay still. And that's how you derive income. Income trading from trading options is a specific art, and you're the income trading specialist for simpler trading. Tell us about your role there and what kind of people would be interested in being involved with your firm.
Sure, absolutely. Simpler trading, simpler options. We have several sites covering different, different things. I am, the income specialist here. We have, obviously John Carter. He trades more directional, and he Gamble. He trades a little more directional. I'm kind of on the other side from them, but that's why our strategies kind of complement each other, because I'm not trying to pick direction. I really don't do a lot of earnings plays or things like that. Again, typically I'm selling premium, 30, 60 days out. And I really don't care if the stock goes up or down in short term as long as, I have a wide range. And typically I'll trade indexes. But, again, my role here is we are a trading firm. We're obviously an educational firm as well. We do a lot of classes and mentorships and things like that. I run a trade advisory service called Bias, and that, people scratch their head and they don't understand what Bias is. Bias is Bruce's Income Advisory Service, BIAS. So, and it's funny, we kind of coined that off the top of our head when we first started this, and it just stuck and it makes sense. But, so I will put on 6 to 12 trades a month in the advisory service, and people follow me, and I give them specific entry points and adjustments if we need them, exit points, that type of thing. So that's been working very well for the last couple of years. And we're probably going to roll out a weekly service of that as well, because I do trade a lot of weeklies. Much smaller percentage of what I do is weeklies, but it's kind of by popular demand. Everybody wants to trade the weeklies.
Yeah, they
And there
are
are there,
bang for your buck. I'm the dummy out there buying them, and you're out there selling them. You guys have something on real estate too, in simpler trading.
yes,
How do you trade real estate?
we
It's
sure
not
do.
very liquid.
We actually, it's kind of neat. We have a couple of guys here that are obviously trading, buying and selling real estate. They basically will walk through the process, whether it is a residential home, a rental property, a hotel, whatever the property is, and basically document the process as they go through it, and turn that into I guess a classroom or a teaching process as they go through it. So it's not hypothetical. This is real, it's real money, and they're buying real properties, and they show you how to do it. So that's been very, very interesting to me as well, because I've always bought and sold property as well.
Okay, and just one final question for you. What's on your radar for today?
I am looking at the number one thing on the radar is the Russell right now. I've been watching the Russell just get pounded the last week. Seems to be a leading indicator. I'm really glad to see that it's up today. I do trade the big indexes, SPX, RUT, NDX. But as far as sectors, and again, this is for the type trading that I do. I've got a couple trades on in the rails, the railroad industry, KSU, Norfolk Southern, CNI, a couple of those names that I think will go sideways with a little bit higher volatility, or really nice to sell credit spreads and on condors on.
Okay.
I like healthcare. I've got a trade in United Healthcare, that sector, Aetna. I think that will continue to do well, also. I like Apple. I've traded Apple off and on, for years and years and years. And to get into, a couple more specific names, I like Restoration Hardware. I think it does well. And, I'm one of I trade the domestics and internationals both, but on the domestic side, something like a Kroger, for example, KR, I think is a pretty good entry point here.
Okay, good support
And
here. Definitely good support. We've been on the line with
yeah,
Bruce Marshall. He's an income trading specialist for Simple Trading, giving us a peek at his strategies. Bruce, thanks for joining us. We hope to have you on again.
great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.